if they legitimately come away with a bad experience, did I con them?
I think ultimately a con is when it's over, if you feel screwed, then you were screwed.
What's up, everybody? Episode 3, 3 Big Radishes. Man, that's a Simpsons line that is burrowed into my brain, and I don't know why. It's got to be the most like just something about the delivery. 3 big radishes.
3 big radishes.
I'm your host, Michael Swaim, a guy with an unhealthy obsession, not just for Simpsons jokes, but for unpacking Simpsons jokes to illuminate basically the whole universe is contained therein if you try hard enough. And that's what we're going to do on this show as it continues. And helping me do that, of course, as you've seen, we had Cody Ziegler, at Daniel Radford, just only top tier luminaries to help us on our quest. And today is no different. Let's get him right into the conversation. You know him from Scam School, potentially, formerly Scam Nation. Am I messing up? Which is the more modern?
You know what? It's kind of like
Nation.
It's like the doctors in Doctor Who. It's like, who's to say which one came first? It's
they're
just
all
another.
The Dalai Lama.
Yeah,
ladies and gentlemen, Brian Brushwood is what I'm trying to say. Welcome, sir.
Oh my God, dude, you're already speaking my love language, because it's like there are so many things that just bubble up in my brain, and it's so unfortunate that there's, I don't know, maybe 5% of the U.S. population that speaks that secret language, where I was able to say to my wife, like, I had a Lisa needs braces moment, and she instantly knew that I was listening, that I was ruminating on one problem, that I had too much of this thing, and meanwhile, somebody else was bugging me because
they pencil in your butt crack.
Exactly. They needed a whole bunch, and I'm like, dental plan, Lisa needs braces.
Dental plan.
Lisa needs braces.
Yeah, of course. I think a lot of us got that one because of the nature of the repetition. Of course, it gets stuck in your head more than most. And it's at the point where when that episode comes up, the first time when it's not in his head, earlier in the episode when Marge goes, Homer, Lisa needs braces. It sounds like surreal. It sounds edited in.
Yes.
Because now it can't unhear. Yeah.
It's a little bit like, remember back when Darmak and Gelada Tanagra wasn't a documentary? Like, that was speculative science fiction.
Wow. And I didn't even prep him, folks. So one of my signature things you can't have known is I drive the conversation to Star Trek at least once every episode.
Oh,
so
I didn't know that. I just knew.
Awesome.
I just knew. A friend of mine was having a deeply emotional conversation, and I wanted to convey
with arms wide open.
Yeah, I did. I wanted to express something with deep nuance, and so I took in a breath, and I was like, You speak Trek, right? He goes, yes. And I was like, maybe. And then instantly it's like, Picard, he's in the middle of this moment. And it's such a useful shorthand, but so brittle because not everybody speaks it.
My God. Okay, so we've gone from the people who are obsessed with Simpsons down to Trekkies. Before we get all the way down to there's no one listening, let's pull it back to Simpsons. But I take it, I've already answered my first question, which is you are Simpsons diehard, grew up with it, respected all those things that the people who are Simpsons disciples might say. But tell us a little bit, or folks that are just tuning in for the Simpsons angle, like you're a magician, a lecturer, a comedy writer, an expert in pseudoscience, social engineering. How has the Simpsons, at least, or similar favorite shows, helped with the writing portion, the storytelling portion of that, right? Is there any connection there?
You know what? This is something I don't think I've unpacked in public, but I have a curious point of view, and I think it just comes from every 2 years my dad moved to another town because he was accepting promotions in, the corporate world thing. And so as a result, like no matter, sometimes I was a popular kid, sometimes I was the weird kid or whatever, but no matter how it went, I was never more than another year from another reboot, and so there was this kind of Groundhog Day existence, and as a result I was always accustomed to not getting the joke. Like I think that's what I loved about Mad Magazine, was that's all my knowledge of the 50s and 60s.
We're on crack now, sir.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, crack.
That was a test, and you passed.
Yeah. Complete collections of Mad, Cracked, and the occasional issue of Crazy.
My point being, like, The Simpsons was so electrifying because there were so many things I knew I wasn't getting, and I knew it was my fault. It was just like that, being in a new town, new school, perpetually. And I think that nobody in polite conversation would share it but I think everybody felt that way. So as a result,
Yeah.
everybody would claim that it's ay caramba, cowabunga, but secretly it's like, no, I know for a fact that you did not get that that was a George Burns reference crossed over. You had to also know of that he was quoting Nixon from this vaudeville sketch. And, you know, there's no way.
Or, you know, similarly, I find out why he says ahoy hoy.
Ahoy hoy?
It ties into the actual history of it's like the first thing anyone ever said into a phone. Oh, that's funny because he's so old. He says his greeting is the first thing anyone ever said to him. And it's just like, you can dig and dig and dig. And indeed we do. So let's. Obviously, so many dimensions to you and your career. A bit like a bit of a Renaissance man, which I love. You spoke to sort of the same impulse that I'm following with this show and in many other of my projects, which is something rouses my curiosity and that's it. And I just get locked in, and that means I'm going to like engage with that subject for a decade and see what happens. So I've brought you in as in like the courtroom, let's say when Worf in DS9 is tried on trumped up charges of firing on an unarmed transport ship. What do they call it? An expert,
witness,
like a state mandated expert. Right. So this episode's going to be a little different in that I just trust Brian so implicitly of following the beat of cons and scams for so long. I'm just going to ask him questions, and it's going to be more of a standard interview, although we will have some good games throughout, as hopefully differentiates this show from other Simpsons podcasts. If you're just jumping in, listener, right this second, you should know that this whole month we're unpacking the Monorail episode, Marge vs.The Monorail, which I'm not even going to recap for anyone. That seems needless. But I will ask, Brian, are you familiar with the Music Man musical, 76 Trombones, Trouble in River City, any of that?
I know it from all of the references, and I'm kind of afraid to watch the original for fear of the Godfather effect. The first time I watched The Godfather, I was like, you have to be kidding me. This is the movie everyone was freaked out about and fell in love with. It's so trite, so cliche.
Have brought great joy to this old Italian stereotype.
No, Don Vittorio, you're not.
Yes, I am. I know it. I am. Anyway.
And of course, what happened was I grew up in the shadow of Godfather.
Right.
Godfather was great, but I just couldn't see it. That's what I'm afraid of with
but
the music.
But it's not
thing.
edgy experimental. It's like how you shoot a novel. And so I understand why young you could be like, it's just transparent. Transparency is hard to do, right? And Godfather taught a bunch of people how to do that. But anyway, this is a show of tangents and loose connections, much like The Simpsons' own structure. But long story short, the Music Man, his scam is to come into town, convince people that your kids are falling into like sin and degradation, gambling, cigarette smoking, as we discovered on one episode. Magazines like Cracked Magazine and Mad Magazine. Captain Billy's, is your son reading Captain Billy's Whiz Bang? And we looked into what is that. It's like the original Mad Magazine. That was a sign, of course, that their souls were forfeit to Satan. And his solution is, I will lead I'm a one-stop shop for a marching band that will be an envy. It will become like, you guys don't have a football team, you're that small or whatever, but you can compete with other schools as a marching band. All the kids will love it. It teaches discipline. They'll all have a skill. I provide all the uniforms, all the instruments, and I'm a world-renowned instructor and conductor, and I do everything, right? So he collects obscene amount of money up front for all that like one-stop kit and then leaves town in the middle of the night. Fairly straightforward scam.
The name's Lanley. Lyle Lanley.
You know what's funny is, and this is something for long-timers, this will resonate, but basically my journey began with, I learned magic tricks, and I realized that the only thing I loved more than doing magic tricks was teaching magic tricks, because it's like you know how to win at chess. It's no fun if nobody else knows the rules of chess. It's like, I want you to know the rules of chess, so it's better when I fool you, right? And then I noticed that the structures of a scam and a con are identical to a magic trick, just with a darker outcome. Instead of checkmating somebody and having them experience wonder, instead you checkmate them and empty their bank account or whatever. And
because
now
they're panicked, so they're not thinking clearly, or like it's just a different emotional state you're getting to.
It's fascinating because now you could kind of see the structures being the same. for effective marketing campaigns. Now, that's not to say that marketing is a scam, but it did make me question.
But it's not to not say that.
But like, then the question is like, what is the difference between a successful fundraiser? Let's say a beloved Kickstarter versus a out and out fraud. And the answer is quite simply, when the whole interaction is over with, do they want to say thank you and do it again? If they have, then clearly whatever it is you did, even if it was, like P.T. Barnum was a master of this at what he would call a humbug, he would have a free, air quotes, buffalo hunting exhibition. But in order to get there, it would be on Long Island, and he ran all the ferries, and he sold all of the beer or whatever. And everybody knew that they were getting hosed the entire, overcharged for everything. But everybody at the end of the day had such a blast and got so much of that intangible story out of it that everybody loved it. They didn't mind.
Did they kill a bunch of buffaloes?
Really... Oh, probably. I mean, they definitely. If one thing he did, when the elephant Jumbo died, he was like, yes, very, very sad, very, very sad. Now I have two Jumbos, the skeleton of Jumbo and the stuffed Jumbo, and they're on tour.
And buffalo are easy to kill.
Yeah, that's interesting, and I'll tie it even to Penn and Teller. Famously, if you see their live show, their signature was they would often show you how the trick was done, and it made it more impressive. And they were almost like showing off. Like a classic example is the nail gun bit, where he keeps using a nail gun hundreds of times. Sometimes he hits himself in the head with it. Sometimes he puts it in wood. Whenever he puts it in wood, it fires a nail. When he hits himself in the head, it's empty. And you feel very tense. And then he shows you how he did it, which is just that he meticulously memorized the number sequence and has never messed up.
Just a little more.
And that makes it, and you're like, that makes the trick, that's the topper of the trick.
Well,
or he's lying about that,
and
which
in fact,
it doesn't matter, right? That's the show itself.
That's the beauty of Penn and Teller's writing, is that there's always multiple layers. It works like a self-similar, a fractal, where it's like, that's the surface narrative, but then you'll remember that part of the unfolding is like, okay, we've got our feet on ground. I know he's memorized the sequence. And then he's like, and that's why it'll fire now, fires. That's why it'll fire now, and it won't fire now, it doesn't fire. Yeah. But then there's something that goes awry, and now the story is, oh, wait a minute, did the trick not work? Now, if you're way on the outside, you know that a core belief of Penn and Teller is that they're big fans of the illusion of putting themselves in danger, but they would never, ever actually, they're very, very safety conscious. So that adds an even more turbulent layer to the mind screw job happening.
You just made me realize I also like explaining jokes like I'm doing right now. My point being, and I wanted to ask first and foremost, as a con and scam expert, is this a workable con, The Music Man? It's a fly-by-night, I believe, is the hip lingo term for it. But like, in your experience, Meredith Willson, author of The Music Man, how cooked up is this scheme? Because within the universe, he's gotten away with this over and over and over all across the country repeatedly and never been caught. I feel like this would catch up with him quickly, and it's the kind of con you can only pull once or twice.
Okay, so that's one of the interesting things that have changed in my lifetime.
And he hasn't changed his name, by the way, this whole time.
So in our lifetime, when we were babies, it was the hallmark of a con man was to pull off this accelerated routine that begins with attracting interest, identifying a problem, solving their problem short term, showing the deeper issue that they all know they have, implying you have a solution, get them to a point where they're the ones who have the idea, oh, no, I want to buy in on whatever your crazy thing is, and I'm willing to flex my morals or the budget of our town to do it or whatever.
Lisa, I'd like to buy your rock.
By your logic, I could claim that this rock keeps tigers away.
Oh, how does it work?
It doesn't work.
Uh-huh.
It's just a stupid rock.
Uh-huh.
But I don't see any tigers around here, do you?
Lisa, I want to buy your rock.
Yes, exactly. But then when they cash the check, that's when it's on them to provide the actual thing, to provide value. And that's when people figure out, oh, it's easier. I liked all that first part. I'll just skip town and do it all again. And now, thanks to the internet, there kind of is no skipping town in that, but there is in that you create a new identity. You identify, instead of a different geography, you identify a different strata of social communication. So it's like if a, let's say, holy water scam works among evangelicals, well, then what you do is you just take all the beats of that story, like a good comedy joke, a comedy joke as opposed to another type
He
of
does
joke.
his little sketches down at
Like good comedy writing, like good joke construction. You identify the structures and then you just remap it to something with crypto. You say you imply that there's mysterious arbitrage somewhere, and again, in the marketing world, they say humans lead with the heart and the mind follows. Like we rationalize, like we know instantly we want that car, but our upstairs brain says, well, we can't want it because it's shiny and red and has those cool fins at the end.
Are you sure that's how this sort of thing works? Shut up, brain, or I'll stab you with a Q-tip.
So instead, it's like, quick, you got to give me something. It's like miles per gallon, safety features, words. So I can buy it? Yes, you can buy it. Let's go. And so likewise, it's the exact same thing with the scam, except for you just don't provide the thing at the end.
Consent. Yeah, collaborative. We're building towards the same moment, and I'm just your wingman, and you don't even know it. So question then, which is very interesting to me, because you said you sort of judge it by whether you would end by thanking the person or, hey, up yours, dude, which is, philosophically speaking, or moral compass speaking, the outcome, right? Do you not care about intent? An example that comes to mind is I myself have a funded Seed and Spark campaign for a movie that we said we'd make within 3 years. People are probably, it's been like 4 or 5. People probably wonder where the movie's at. Some people are probably like, up yours, I bet it was a scam. It wasn't. We haven't touched a cent of it. It just takes a really long time to make a movie. But if they legitimately come away with a bad experience, did I con them?
I think ultimately a con is when it's over, if you feel screwed, then you were screwed. If you feel good, then you weren't screwed. Now, the only exception to that is when you get into like fraudulent health practices, because like people who got psychic surgery probably said thank you and probably felt really good until they died suddenly.
That's what could you argue that deluding someone into being happy in spite of a shitty situation is not a con?
I don't know. Now, see, this is how complex the weeds get.
It's
now
like,
you're all caught up.
I don't mean to say religion, but like that bears on religion. Is the solace of religion. Do you have to prove God is real or it's a con?
I've even kept kosher just to be on the safe side. I've done everything the Bible says, even the stuff that contradicts the other stuff.
The placebo effect is valuable in and of itself.
Yeah.
Even if it turns out faith in God is a placebo effect, which I'm saying I don't know. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, it's again, you wouldn't think that like scoring a free drink would lead to this ethical conundrum, but this has been the journey. It's like, wait a minute, that's also the same shape. What's going on?
Man, no wonder your hair just like shot out and stayed out. The thoughts.
That's
flowing.
actually no. It was the reverse. It used to be rock hard and knew what's up, and then it faced God itself. It went.
It was like shrank away. Yeah. All right, it's time for our first game. If we could, I think I'm gonna call it Original Sin. SYN for synonyms. I challenged myself to think of the names on the fly of the games. And the game is, I'm going to present the current most upvoted front page Urban Dictionary definition for a word that is a legitimate dictionary synonym or slang for like con or scam.
Got it.
You will have to reverse engineer and guess the original synonym that I must have started with. Yeah, okay. Original sin. That works.
Well, no, yeah, that's good.
Definition. Any of various free-swimming marine mollusks of the family Pectinidae having bivalve shells with a radiating fluted pattern.
Man, I want to. So these are.
That is the Urban Dictionary definition of a word that is a term for a scam or a ploy or a
I mean, clams certainly is associated with money, and that's a bivalve mollusk.
But I mean, it is a synonym for con.
Yeah.
Specifically. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh, a fish. Okay. They say when you sit down to play a game of poker, look around. If you don't see the fish, it's you. Is it fished?
Scallop.
Scallop.
We were looking for scallop.
Oh.
It's a simple scallop.
Yeah,
again, a UK
also,
term.
I'm on the record of calling a fish a bivalve mollusk.
True. Mollusk, not fish. Pretty dumb. Pretty dumb.
Boy, you are slow.
Something said, not good.
All right, next question. Definition: when you go into a porta potty to jerk off, drink, or have sex while at work.
Oh, holiday.
Holiday. Is holiday a term for con?
Yeah.
Or just the first word that surfaces in your mind?
Okay, and the word ultimately is a euphemism for scammer con.
And this one I know you know. It's not a trick like scallop, I think might be a British term again.
While at work. God, man, I
It's not a single word, I'll say. This time it's a short phrase that means
on break?
to con or run a con.
Okay, man. Okay,
Like
this,
take a break would be a feasible but incorrect guess. Yes.
yeah, I got
doesn't
nothing,
mean
although I
it's
do
not a
feel like
famous
this is
term
going to
or
calibrate me for the rest of the game.
This one would probably get you, I think, in the right headspace to nail the rest. Pull a fast one.
Is that real? Oh, that's what I never
Pull a
knew.
fast
I
one.
never knew that's what pulling a fast one. I didn't know
The
that.
porta potty thing? No one means, or I don't either.
Oh,
That's
okay.
the game. Urban Dictionary.
I see. Got it. All right, now I am fully.
But I'm saying now that I understand why that could be the definition. For
Oh yeah,
pull a fast
no.
one. You know
But
what
now
I
we
mean?
know what's being
So
pulled.
that's how you're trying to think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Definition. I'm sorry. Maybe the hardest one in the whole game. A medieval folk dance, as stated by Richard of the TV show Bottoms. Unless you've seen that show.
Is it a British show?
I don't think so. I heard good things about it. I forget what network it was on.
I like the fact that you said I don't think it's British because I heard good things about it.
Well, it's on 2023 teen comedy.
Okay.
Oh, it's a movie. Right. I remember the good things I heard about it and that I need to watch it. Yeah. It's a 2023 movie. Bottoms,
Okay. All right.
comedy movie.
So again, it was.
Or I'm confusing it with a British TV show called Bottom.
I really.
Well, it doesn't matter to me.
I want all the British people to be pulling fast ones, and coming for.
Think of terms you know for con. This is your vertical.
Yes, it is. Okay. Let's see. Scam,
medieval
con,
folk
flim
dance.
flam.
Right, this is in the right direction.
Heist.
Okay, I'm gonna give
swindle.
I'm gonna give you a secondary definition that I kept as a break in case of emergency. Okay.
Okay.
It wasn't the top voted definition on the page, but my favorite Urban Dictionary definition for this word, and it's more of a clue, is the particular way that your wang dangles.
Oh. Like a lift, a grift, a sniff.
You're thinking, yeah, it's a sniff, Brian. It's a sniff. Wangle. We were looking for wangle.
Oh, it is wangle?
The way your wang
I'm
dangles.
feeling less bad about my performance the more of these
Great.
words I hear.
Great.
I do like wangle, though. I'm going to use it in just where it doesn't belong. I'm gonna use it with my teenage daughters. Quit wangling your old man.
So we will wrap out with this definition to finish our game up. See if you can figure out what original phrase that means to con or cheat someone is defined on Urban Dictionary as when two are double a woman and the bottom slips out. Then, as he tries to re-enter, he instead pushes the of the guy on top into her.
Oh, I think that's the original hoodwink.
Hoodwink.
And if it's not right, we please give me partial credit for it ought to be.
It works in both senses. It is a good definition for this unlikely sexual scenario. It's some dirty pool. That's dirty pool.
Dirty
mister.
pool. That's pretty good. That's pretty good on all levels. I like that.
And that's how we play Original Sin. Let's kick it back to cons with another one of my pressing questions. Thoughts on Carmen Sandiego and or stealing or selling monuments or large tracts of land?
On World's Greatest Cons, those episodes we're trying to find the stories that haven't been told before. So as a result, I have this blind spot for the classics, but I recently looked up the classics, like Victor Lustig selling the Eiffel Tower. Basically, you again, what you have is you have anxiety about money. You have a mysterious structure of arbitrage, a secret that only this guy knows. Because think about it, it's so bold and audacious. Number one, the Eiffel Tower was, and I'm speaking from memory, so I might be wrong, it was built as a World's Fair exhibition, so it was never intended to be a forever thing. So it always would perpetually seem unlikely, but not impossible, that they would be about to take the whole thing down and sell it for scrap. At which point, you would imagine that there's an arbitrage market for friends of friends to get privileged access to this scrap metal.
So he was selling it the Lego bricks, not you will own the Eiffel Tower. Okay.
Yes.
I just always wondered how that connected to supervillains stealing monuments. Like, what does that mean? The Carmen Sandiego took the
Let me
Bridge.
let me double check because Lustig did a bunch of cons, and I want to make sure I'm not conflating.
Is there a historical con man or person who is your all-time hero? Like,
and I'm having a
like, is it Frank Abagnale, or is there some con man you really admire?
It definitely has been Frank Abagnale, but now it's more complicated because it looks an awful lot like, and it's one of those things where it's just like
Donald Trump.
No,
there's an argument to be had there.
Yeah, well, but with Frank Abagnale, if there's the movie Catch Me If You Can, there's the book Catch Me If You Can, and if you can find it, I think it's a Google talk he did where he says, yeah, neither of those are the real story. So and the whole thing is he's famous for traveling the world as the most fabulous liar, passing all these checks and so on. And then after 20 years of adoring this story, I begin to find an article or two. There's some people who made careers out of trying to dig at the edges of the story, which basically it boils down to, wait a minute, if what you want to be famous for is being the best liar, why would you bother to go around the world passing a bunch of checks and then going to a French prison, getting double pneumonia, being on the run? Why wouldn't you just skip to the part where you're telling that story? And it's like once I had that thought, I couldn't unthunk it.
That's probably true. That's probably true.
Yeah. Well, and meanwhile, I know that the on the record Frank Abagnale has an extraordinary history as a public speaker he does work with 3-letter government agencies to root out fraud. So regardless of and this is me way on the outside, this is me being a rube on the street outside looking in.
Hey, what's going on this side?
If I was guessing, I would guess that there was fraud, but it was more boring variety fraud. And he became very good at spinning tails and public speaker. And, once you sign book rights or whatever, a lot of projects get away from you. Everything probably needed to have a lot of edges sanded down. So I have no idea what the actual human Frank Abagnale is like, but I know that his story has been beloved to me.
So then, keeping on the Leo DiCaprio tip, I guess because if you were touched by the Wolf of Wall Street guy, you probably would have ended up saying, hey, up yours, pal, you really fucked me on that. Most people would come away from interactions with him that way. So is that a con? Or, meaning, to me, there's almost a lightness to a con or a low stakesness to a con, whereas I would call predatory financial malfeasance almost more than a con.
I have a much uglier word for it, sir. Misappropriation.
Or do you consider that just another con?
This is where intent is literally the legal definition of a fraud. For example, magicians will do tricks where we mess with money, and all magicians make the same joke that it's a federal crime. And it is a federal crime to mess with money, ... if it is with the intent of altering the monetary supply.
Oh, so counterfeit in some way.
Exactly. Or and also illegal currency manipulation. Let's say there's hyperinflation and it becomes worth it for the U.S. government to take a whole bunch of, Deutschmarks and set fire to them.
Burn them because it will tilt. Right, I see.
Right. So So intent matters, and that is another key component. I mean, I guess what we're figuring out really fast is for every one simple question, there's two more deeper questions, and then eventually we get, like, I remember one of the first times we did a podcast together, we got into a discussion about whether or not art can stand apart from the artist. And as a magician, it always seems like, there's two roles to be played. So
at minimum.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because then I'm like, when I hear the phrase con artist, I'll think of something cool like Matchstick Men. And then I'll think, well, but also a guy who just robocalls 1,000 old people until someone confusedly gives him $1,000 is also a con artist. But there's nothing sexy about that. That's pathetic loser behavior.
Would you listen to the gibberish they've got you saying? It's sad and alarming.
If you think about it, so think about, like, gambling at the small level is incredibly glamorous and sexy. That idea of $10,000 being on the line
I'm not
isn't
super
going to
pro
be
gambling, but you do get a unit of fun, which is an intangible thing out of it, I would say. Yeah.
But at scale, it becomes so boring that banks will lend billions of dollars on it, where it's like, all you have to say is, it's blackjack. We have a 1% house advantage. They're like, and we can get 6 million people through the door every quarter. And they're like, well, that's action times 1% house edge equals predictable profit. It's the exact same thing with Scams and Cons World. There's a fantastic episode of Search Engine, PJ Votes podcast, where you ever get one of those weird spam texts that's like, hey, what's up? And then where's the money in that? And the answer is somebody decided to reply, and eventually it becomes a romance scam, which is you get somebody, again, all you're doing is you're finding out what is somebody's anxiety. The anxiety could be, I'm worried about financial, I'm worried about my status, I'm worried about being lonely. Whatever it is, you explore that, you get deep enough, because your reputation in marketing, at the marketing level, they would call that brand value. At the con level, they would call it, how far you've reeled them in. You get deep enough in their head that finally you begin to imply that whatever the thing is that they just told you on this bizarre therapy session that takes place over months, you say whatever that anxiety is, you imply it can all be fixed on the other side of thing you barely understand or thing you've heard of but don't really understand. And then once you get to that level of trust, it turns out to have all built on lies.
After years of disappointments with get-rich-quick schemes, I know I'm going to get rich with this scheme, and quick.
I mean, think about it, man, if we're going to go full galaxy brain, what's the difference between a con when it comes to marriage? If the marriage lasts...
Hey, you pig. Here. We're kids, man. I just had my first kid. Total scam. Drinks all my breast milk that I was saving for myself. But speaking of galaxy brain, you just made me connect it to, which I never mean to make this important or real, but it happens sometimes. Man, it's depressing that a person in a desperate situation who has rationalized to the point that they're like, screw the moral compass, or I'm going to do it anyway. Scamming is the way for me. And it's to scam, like to sideswipe, to take bites out of the other poor to middle class people when it's like in our fiction. And I do want to see, I'm like, scam a billionaire for billions of dollars. Then you're a hero, man. You know what I mean? Like, don't scam old people, because at scale, if you churn out 10,000 emails, you can get a barely livable wage. Scam Elon Musk. Someone con Elon Musk. Can you give me a hopeful example of someone spectacularly and in romantic fashion conning someone who deserved it out of a big sum? Does that ever happen in real life?
Actually, that is anybody... Like,
God, is it happening now? Are you
Anybody who's Brian Brushwood curious, I always tell them, just listen to the very first episode of the very first season of World's Greatest Con, because it is legitimately, like, we screwed ourselves because you're not going to beat it.
That's the best one?
It is. Like, the 20 committee, a committee including Ian Fleming, who would go on to create James Bond, came up with a full-on scheme, a con, where the mark was Adolf Hitler himself. And guess what? It worked. Hitler defended the wrong coast because of a straight up classic back of the speaker van or back of the van speaker scam, a haversack ruse, a Trojan horse, basically. And it worked. You can't beat it. You can't find a more deserving foe. Although I did find, and this was because I was afraid that you would ask for like specifics and I wouldn't be able to remember. So I kind of pulled a bunch of classic. I took some notes. Yeah. I found out today, hours ago, what the oldest con in recorded human history was. Do you have a guess?
Yeah, well, we've talked about thimble rigging before on this month, which would be my guess, which is the pee under the cups. Follow it with your eye. Oh, no, it never was there because I pocketed it.
Just pick the red card. It's totally not hard.
So this one is, and I guess it depends on how you want to squint, whether or not like the Trojan horse would be a scam or a con or whatever. That certainly is a case of, yeah, you accept a gift. But the template upon which all current fraud insurance is based is on something called Hegestratus's sunken ship insurance fraud. 300 BC, ancient Greece. Here's the summary, courtesy of ChatGPT. Greek merchant Hegestratus and an accomplice took out a bunch of insurance on a boat because boats would sometimes sink. And then to collect, tried to burn down the boat. Whoopsie doodle, got caught. Didn't go well for him. And that is the first known con job in history. Fraud. Yeah, that's
it's like the basic template of insurance fraud. Sure. That's so funny. Yeah. Nice that it started at sea. That it was a maritime
international waters, baby.
First. Yeah.
Well, and that does speak to the fact that getting away, some kind of escape mechanism seems to be a key component so that you can do it again.
Don't burn down the thing that you're on. Yeah. In the middle of the ocean is step one of conning.
The worst show I've ever seen! You're a disgrace to the medicine show business! They didn't start chasing us until you turned on that getaway music!
But that brings us to our second game, which I'm calling Sins of Omission.
More synonyms?
I mean, it is more synonymic nomenclature fun. What game 3, I'll have to think of something else because game 3 does not involve synonyms.
You'll have to come up with some word that means the same thing as synonyms, like a.
Let's roll with it. Yeah. Sounded like, what is a synonym for synonym? A parallel. Anyway, I am gonna say 4 words that are synonyms, or even just 4 words that belong together. You'll get it when you hear it. You will identify which one is real con or slang, like lingo, and define it ideally. And then you can also, for bonus points, but you don't have to, identify which of the red herring answers are actually Simpsons references.
Oh, great. Okay.
All right, here we go. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Oh, and one of those is
con slang.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. Well, can't con an honest John is the classic phrase. And of course, somebody who engages with a lady of the evening is called a John. I want to say also the thing you piss in is a John. It seems.
Depends what the lady of the evening has on offer.
Yeah, that's true. But Matthew, Mark, and Luke, I can't think of anything scam related, so I'm going to go with John.
We were looking for Mark. The target of a con is the Mark.
I don't know how I walked past that. Do you know where Mark came from?
I believe, like, your John answer is supportable too, but Mark is correct.
No,
too.
of course. I was thinking I was too anthropomorphized. So a Mark it used to be in. Again, we have that same structure of travel. So you have traveling carnival. You have an on the surface, on the level thing happening. And there's a bunch of midway games that have varying degrees of, that's your random noise generator. Maybe you'll impress the lady, maybe not. But you get to engage with a narrative thread to goad somebody. If you catch somebody with a girl on his arm, you know that you can milk him because out of pride, he'll keep doubling down. Whereas somebody else you might poke at the greed aspect or whatever. If it's, or shame can be a big motivator if it's a bunch of young teenage boys or whatever. And so
40-year-old man.
But if somebody gets caught in the parlance of the olden times, flashing cabbage, having a lot of money,
hanging brain,
yeah. Wanging, wangling. But if you caught somebody who had a lot of money, they would you would pat them on the back, like better luck next time or congratulations.
Oh, and that's
leaving a chalk mark on their back.
Just like that movie M, where they identify the murderer.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah, the M is on his back, and that's how they know it's the murderer. That's so cool, identifying someone in a crowd with like, "Hey, how you doing, buddy?" Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Very good. Very good. Here's your next set. You ready? Set of 4.
Yep, ready.
The first lick, the convincer, the test drive, the bait, thing beauty.
Okay, this sounds like there are definite some Simpsons references in there. The test drive is a legitimate sales closer, also known as the puppy dog close. In sales, what you do is if you seem to be on the hook for something, something that is free of value is like, well, why don't you take it home? Just see how you feel and take it back. The problem is
fall in love with it.
Exactly. Well, and more importantly, this is what economists
or at least
call,
there's a chance you will. Yeah.
There's I forget the name of the bias, but basically, if I in economics 101 classes, they'll hold up a university mug and they'll say, who wants to give me $5 for this? And then nobody wants it. And he's like, well, congratulations, all of you have one. And then they all look under their desks and they all have mugs. And it's like, how much will you sell me that mug for? And they're like, $10. And it's like, well, which is it worth? Yeah. It wasn't worth $5 when I tried to sell it, but it is worth $10 now that you are. So that's the test drive, the puppy dog close. The test drive is a softer version of that. What were the other 3?
The first lick, the convincer, and the bait, thing beauty.
The first lick, if I were to guess, is a Simpsons reference where it's like, I don't know, I could picture probably some bit where somebody, like the first lick is free, and then you charge it.
That is what I was thinking when I made up that phrase out of thin air.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Same brain. Okay, and then I'm gonna go with the test drive as being the scam related one.
The convincer is an initial taste or sum of money given to the mark to gain their trust and whet their appetite, convincing them the system is legitimate.
Yeah, no, that's also part of it.
The bait, thing beauty, is what Mr. Burns calls Marge in the King Kong Homer trio.
Am I going too?
Of course. We wouldn't think of going without the bait. That is, the bait thing beauty, the bathing beauty. I covered that up pretty well.
Oh, we can't leave without our bait. I mean, our bait thing beauty. All right, we got to make up some time. Here we go. You ready for 4? Okay.
All right.
Giggle bag, cackle bladder, chuckle bucket, squib.
Well, a squib is an actual special effects thing that explodes for when you're shot. Chuckle bucket sounds like...
And they're synonyms, remember?
Oh.
So now you know the definition. Yeah, but yeah. Does that mean? Maybe I overclued you.
Wait. What was it again?
Giggle bag, cackle bladder, chuckle bucket, squib.
Yeah. All I can think of is a whoopee cushion.
Okay. Well, it's a squib. It's what, if people know what a squib is.
Oh,
the definition is a rubber tube connected to a squib of chicken blood used to fake your death, popularly in the 20s or 30s, cons, and they called it a cackle bladder.
Cackle bladder.
Cackle bladder was the winner there. And then I was hoping to trip you up with Chuckle Bucket being a Simpsons reference, but it's actually a Family Guy reference.
Oh.
But you didn't even notice either way, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. Here we go. 4 more. Inside triangle, on the square, on the trolley, all cubed up.
Okay, well, on the trolley, I've heard forever, but I don't know the provenance of that one. Now you're on the trolley. That one seems like you're on the inside. You're aware. You're picking up what I'm putting down. But I don't know if that's so common as to not qualify as a scammer con related phrase. The other 3, don't mean anything to me.
All cubed up?
Yeah, all cubed up.
You haven't been to the right parties, man. All right, we were looking for on the square, which means working legitimately, not conning right now. I'm on the square, Chief.
Yeah, okay, that
on
tracks.
the trolley is a Simpsons reference.
The main thing is to bring in the rubes.
Do whatever it takes. Sweet talk, insults, slang from the 30s that no one uses anymore.
Like rubes?
Now you're on the trolley.
Here we go. 4 more. Grabber, roper, hooker, the lasso.
Okay. I'm gonna say grabber. These all seem to mean like the individual in a scam or a con whose job it is to rope somebody in, to get them in on the scheme. Somebody, a cold caller or prospector who's going to bring you a warm lead for the fleecing.
Absolutely. The con artist who scouts the crowd and engages likely marks, pulling them into whatever your show is. Interesting that you said the person who ropes them in, because the word we were looking for was the roper. All right. Last one for this round of shame you and make you feel like you don't know anything about your subjects, even though you do. And I just picked a bunch of weird words off the internet. You ready?
Yes.
Sharpie, highlighter, ballpoint, quickie mark pen that when you turn it upside down, the lady's clothes come off.
Oh no, her clothes are coming off! Hey, you know who would love this? Men.
Okay, so which one is the real one? Sharpie, I believe I remember it here's the metagame is I think you found the word Sharpie and then you just instantly thought, what are other related things? And then you put a Simpsons one at the end. Sharpie highlighter. Yeah, that's what I'm going to go with. A Sharpie is, I believe, somebody who's wise to the con, somebody who you don't want to mess with because they may be onto you.
That definition actually makes more sense to me, but it is the con. It's just a term for conners, cheaters, swindler, specifically at pool or cards, as in a card.
Card sharp or whatever. You know what? It is worth pointing out, and for those of you wondering, yes, this is me excusing my poor performance in these games. That because all of these scams and cons rely on information inefficiencies, it's very, very common for you to hear 75 different words, regional based or clubs for the exact same thing.
I fully understood. I'm like, there's no guarantee he'll have heard what these guys in Liverpool said in their con in the 60s, you know, but I thought it would be
and what's interesting is the words that are in the common vernacular, they become in the common vernacular specifically so that all the cheaters can say, this ain't no whatever the common word is. This is a real thing. And then meanwhile, of course, in their inner secret clubs, they're using the new cool word.
Right. Absolutely. I'm still saying skibbity, and I know I'm not supposed to. I know that's way done now. Things move faster than that. But oh well, let's skibbity into our final question before our final game, before our other final game.
Ready.
In which I just wanted to sort of kick things off by asking you, I did see the Penn and Teller show once, and the most impressive trick to me, and then he explained it, and of course, I don't know how much of his explanation, if any, was fabricated, which is a great way to lie if you want to be a liar, is lots of times tell the full truth. It's very confusing when you only lie sometimes. So, like, that's what's great about Penn and Teller. A great way they obfuscate is sometimes they really are showing you exactly how the trick really works, and it really is impressive. Sometimes they zhuzh that up with some lies, and they fly right through because you don't know. But regardless, the cold reading thing, man, at the show I went to, he did a thing where he like brought the house lights up and passed around a crate of random books, like hundreds of books, and started with the trick of picking people at random. I see you hold one of the books. They all look identical. What's the title? Oh, okay. Can you flip to a page at random? Blah, 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 blah. So he could tell you whatever the sentence was on any page, and I don't know if he was doing a force to get them to particular passages. I can't fathom that he memorized the content of 100 books, but I mean, people have done stuff like that. So I just wanted your take on, because then, of course, Penn and Teller are great at the trick evolves into a top read and think what's going to happen. Then he just started saying people about stuff. or stuff about people like, and you, sir, of course, you work as this in this region, you know, and all this stuff. Can you speak to a little of that, which is to me the most mind-bending thing I ever see is the cold reading stuff, when someone just like comes up and it's like, here's your whole deal. And I don't mean in an astrology way. I mean, they're like in a Sherlock Holmes way. I see by your left shoe that you were divorced last Christmas Day. And you're like, how the fuck did you know that?
Yeah, part of the arsenal is to remember that there are a whole bunch of different tools, and a good magician and a good scam artist and a good fraudulent talker to dead people or whatever will use the wide spectrum and constantly be pivoting so that you're left confused as to which ones are which. And like you were saying, Penn and Teller, one of the beauties is that they highlight some of the false ones or the true ones, so that they give you just enough ammunition to use against yourself. But it can be, so for example, the astrology side of thing has been called the Barnum effect, or it was psychologist B.R. Forer gave everybody an envelope and said, hey, we got your birth date. We had an astrologer write down a very highly detailed reading for exactly you. And it went on to say, you have a need to like and be admired by people, but you're critical of yourself. While you have done this thing, sometimes you're like that or whatever. And then the
one-size-fits-all human statements.
Exactly. So, but here's the fascinating part to me is that this has been replicated again and again and again. And when people are asked to rate that one reading, that one magic paragraph for accuracy, it always comes back 4.2 out of 5. It is 84% accurate. Now, if that's all you have in your bag of tricks, you get figured out real quick as you just kind of cast a Rorschach shadow and let me project myself onto it. But if you also, let's say you know enough about, let's say you happen to know, I don't know, if you're in Las Vegas, my guess is somebody may tell you what convention is in town. And now all of a sudden, if I know that it's Pipe Fitter Union, West Coast, whatever, their fourth time here, or maybe first time in Vegas, but previous years it was that, even though I don't know of any one person, I'm able to construct an avatar of the types of things that probably apply to this
Or find
person.
a patch of people all hanging out in the crowd and going, that's clearly that convention. I could pick anyone in that area and say those things about them.
And then on top of that, you also have the fact that anytime you see a performer, there's an asymmetry of like you are seeing them for the first time do their thing. However, you must remember, they are living Groundhog Day. They live their real life in the outside world, but for 10,000 hours, they're only on that one stage, and you are just another iteration of the same face, which means there are certain, whether it's the line they, air quotes, just thought up on the spot, or if they quickly assess that, okay, this person seems to have had maybe one more drink than I need for this trick, but she'll be good for this other trick.
I don't want to alarm anyone, but I think there's a little alcohol in this punch.
All of that ends up reading as this supernatural confidence or whatever, when it's simply an amount of polish and iteration, which, again, we get back to that structure of the mark of the con man is do it, run the routine, go start over from scratch at another city, do it all again.
Brockway, Ogdenville, and North Haverbrook, and by gum, it put them on the map.
And as a result, you see those patterns in the mark.
Because I guess when you watch Penn and Teller on stage in Vegas, you assume they've never failed ever, because that's what they want you to assume. I'm sorry. Please.
Oh, no.
Great philosopher.
You nailed it. I was just going to say, Kenny Rogers, you got to know when to fold him, know when to run.
Of course.
But you're right, because if you've ever heard of the Texas sharpshooter fallacy, you walk up to the side of a barn, gunslinger pulls out his gun, goes, pow, hits the side of a barn. Everyone's like, okay, so what? And then he walks over with a can of paint and draws circles around it. And everyone's like, oh my God, he hit it right on the target first try. So nobody knows why you're doing or what you're doing. And so what may look like a stub that goes nowhere, you just need time delay so that by the time you land the plane, you can point to all of those random stubs and somehow it makes sense that these were all on purpose on the way. When really, like, for example, here's the simplest version that I can give away for. I don't think he'll be upset. But the great magician Tom Mullica, there's a way to force a card, right? And some of them are more contrived than others. The best version is where you spread it, and for all the world, just a million subtle motions, it feels like you're picking a truly random card, but you've been forced and you don't even feel like it. It's very hard to nail, and when magicians figure it out, good on them. It really does feel magical, but it doesn't always work. And so here's this godlike professional Tom Mullica, who I'm watching performing, and he spreads, and I'm like, oh my God, he's going to do the classic force. And then somebody picks it, and he goes, great, that's yours. We're going to find yours the easy way. And he just picks up the card, flips it over right in front of him. Now we're going to do yours the hard way. And that was a funny one-note joke, ... or was it?
That was a mulligan.
Say it missed on the second one, he could say, remember your card. That's going to be important later. In fact, hold on to it and then go on to the third, because we don't know where we're going. Then he maybe tries the third time. Maybe that time it does land, or he does a safer version of a force.
Safer force.
Yeah. And then maybe he does the whole show, and then they're like, oh, do you need that card? And then whatever.
I never think of improv, or I mean, I know the patter contains improv, but I never think of, I always assume a magician's trick is a meticulous sequence of events that occurs the same way every time.
And for the most part,
well, ideally,
it is.
I'm sure it is, but amazing to think, of course, of inclement scenarios and emergency backup plans. That's
and as you
fun.
know, with all our discussions on video games to me are so much like a good con game or a magic trick, because the main character doesn't know they're the protagonist. They don't know their character. They don't know their lines. They just have to be nudged into figuring everything out on their own. And there are different tracks, you know, it's like, there's Call of Duty. There's only one track. But then there's other things that feel like a sandbox, but really you're guided, you know, whether you take the left door or the right door, you're still going to end up on the other side.
Yeah. Semiotics, I think. Is a
word is that what it's called?
It's somewhere in that area.
Yeah.
But without holding me to that, I wanted to sort of wrap out by asking you, and we've already touched on, you know, the nefarious cons or scams that are seemingly, I feel like they've always been with us. But, you know, a lot of people feel like they're everywhere now, or much more dangerous with generative AI and deepfake technology and all this new stuff. And I guess I'm of both minds. I'm like, well, we've always found a way to trick each other forever, no matter what. But that doesn't mean this will make it even worse and easier, or like even harder. Do you have any practical advice, or have you seen any through lines of, even though it was a wrong answer, let's say a Sharpie, meaning someone who's not easily conned? So like from the small stakes of burning your ship and lying about it to the large story, you know, to the complicated matter of forcing a card selection. If you were living life trying to not get conned, what are you mostly looking out for? Or what instincts help you see through it? Or are we all so like susceptible to it that that's not an option?
There is something lyrical and musical about the nature of the rhythm of a con or a scam that is so identical to a magic trick that I don't know if I told you this story, but when I was 17, I was working at a movie theater. Somebody came in to get change, and while we were getting change, and that was your 20 and this and the other, I had a flash of, this feels like a magic trick. And sure enough, once he left, we counted the register and we were down $50. I had been full on swindled by the short change scam. But the important thing is that it was not my my cognitive, my system 2 thinking, as Daniel Kahneman would call it. It was my gut level system 1 thinking that was like, I know this rhythm from somewhere.
Your blink instinct.
Exactly. So when it comes to recognizing the patterns, but what I care about is not to upstairs psychologically understand the process of getting fooled, but at a gut level to internalize those rhythms, because once you see them, once you feel them, you smell them coming a mile away.
So your advice is become the predator. Scam before you can be scammed. Great.
In a low stakes way. Yeah, no, in a low stakes way, like kind of what's the best way to prep for self defense is to play paintball. That's not true, but my point is at least like.
Wait, that's not true.
Well, no. I somebody out there who actually knows self defense is going to correct me. Like for example, I played
somebody out there who super loves paintball is about to get pissed at you too, dude. You can't win.
Whoops. Here's what I do know is when I played paintball. Instantly all of the practice that I'd done playing Counter-Strike suddenly mattered. And I was
all
able
I can say about one of the times I played paintball was we were able to win by using the fact that if you fire the shots, they arc and like go over cover. And that's not how real war works. You can't arc the bullets at people unless you're in Wanted. All right. Thank you so much, Brian. It is almost time to wrap up, but in honor of The Simpsons, we always end all nice conversations where we arrive at any kind of real point with a sudden undermine that I call cutting through the treacle.
Eat my shorts. Bart, just cutting through the treacle.
Today's cutting the tea is, like it always is, a small round of comfortable, straightforward, recentering Simpsons trivia. Just to reset our focus, let the show snap back to normal for next week, you know. So Brian, Simpsons Trivia traditionally has an easy mode and a hard mode on this show. Easy mode is 10 simple but increasingly tricky questions, like I'm just working against you more, in quick succession. Hard is one really hard multi-part question, but you can like talk it out with me and take time. Which mode would you prefer?
You know what? I think we've seen that simple binary yes/no questions I'm not doing great at. So I'm going to try the big one thorny one.
Craig. And I don't even know if it's harder. You know what I mean? Speaking of cons, I called the 10 question, but like maybe this is easier. Depends how you like to tackle questions, I suppose. But here comes your long, sort of more in-depth question. How much, you might want to take notes or get a notepad up.
All right, I'm ready.
It's a math one. I'm sorry, people. Is all of the Simpsons kids' ages added together times Hans Moleman's canonical age minus how much Homer weighed right before he tried to get on disability? And the answer itself is a South Park reference, if you did it right.
Okay.
I'm very proud of being able to construct this to the point that
I think I'm going to do better than you'd expect. So the kids' ages, I believe canonically, Maggie is what, 18 months canonically, year and a half. Is that right? Is she a year? No, she's got to be 0 to 1 because she's literally a baby. I no longer remember baby's age. So I'm going to say...
Well, I'm going to let you talk more before I give you the answer.
Well, I'll say about 1. I think Bart is around... I remember realizing at some point that when The Simpsons came out, I was pretty much Bart's age, and then I saw Homer's age come and go, and now I'm creeping up on Grandpa's age.
And Homer's tricky because they have changed his age. He's gotten older while no one else has, which is bizarre.
Oh, that's interesting. I want to say...
When he started the show, he was 34, now he's 40.
Yeah, okay, all right. So, well then, which age should I factor in for this?
I didn't use him. That's neither here nor there.
That's right, you said the kids.
Yeah. The kids' ages added together times Hans Moleman's age minus Homer's weight right before he intentionally started eating to get on disability. And size Homer.
The number I remember to hit hyper obesity, he had to cross 300, and when he weighed in, it was like 298 or 297, and then he ate Play-Doh because it was non-toxic, and then let his gut off of the towel rack, at which point he spun up to like 315, 320 or whatever. But beforehand...
I'm talking about what he weighed when he began his disability journey.
When he consulted Dr. Nick, who
you
called
get
him
that big
dangerously.
flash, you get a dream sequence where he says hi to a pig, and his weight is written on the ground, and he's going to climb up to 300. What was his starting
Okay, I'm just going to roll with like 246 for a starter.
Okay.
And then the kids' ages plus Hans Moleman. Now, if I remember correctly, like Hans Moleman's age, I remember it as being hinted at, but never flatly stated, but absurdly high. Like, I want to say...
it's flatly stated.
Oh, is it? Yeah. I want to say,
It is
like,
set
over
in
100.
stone.
Okay.
You should say what you want to say, brother.
Okay. All right. Kids' ages, let's say 1 plus 8 plus 13, or 12, 21, plus Hans Moleman's.
Times Hans Moleman's age.
Times Hans Moleman. So I guess that would be 2,100, 2,100 times Homer's
minus
weight.
Homer's weight.
Oh, okay. So maybe it's a year is the clue. Because if we're around 2,100 minus 246, that would take us to... is it a year that's referenced in South Park?
Calling it slaughter rule, engaging the slaughter rule.
All right.
Maggie is 1.
Homer, you didn't do a very good job frosting Maggie's birthday cake.
What? It's not McGaggy's birthday? Oh.
Bart is 10.
If you were 17, we'd be rich. But no, you had to be 10.
And Lisa is 8 for a total of 19.
Yep.
Times Hans Moleman's age. He is 31 years old. He looks that way because he's a terrible alcoholic, as we learn in AA when he goes,
Busted.
Drinking ruined my life. I'm 31 years old.
My name is Hans. Drinking has ruined my life. I'm 31 years old.
Busted.
Minus how much Homer weighed right before he tried to get on disability, which was 239 pounds.
You can do it, old boy.
For a grand total of about Tree Fitty.
And of course, the Tree Fitty episode is the best South Park because it's the one where they take on the biggest douche in the universe. That's incredible. Right. Full circle. Well played. Well done.
Right. I appreciate you. As always, the games are designed for the audience's amusement, not to make you feel good about yourself. Sorry for that. They're hard. I'm new at designing games. I might need to take the trivia down a few notches. But before we go, just want to thank you sincerely for sharing all your wisdom with us. Of course, everyone can get much deeper with Brian with his shows World's Greatest Cons, Con, and Scam Nation, I think is the newer name. Scam School was what it originally was, right? Now it's Nation.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. And just the easiest way to stay abreast of anyone's content, where can people find you on socials and whatnot?
At Schwood, SHWOOD. There is no C in Schwood. You'll find me on everywhere.
And name of the YouTube channel is?
Modern Rogue.
Now let's go whip donuts at old people.
Homer says, increase your wordiness. Today's word is cathexis, which describes a concentration of mental energy on one person, idea, or object. There was originally a negative or unhealthy connotation to the word, sort of like an infatuation or limerence is a word I've been hearing more lately. Freud and some of his contemporaries believed that a person only had a limited amount of mental energy, and so that to grow an affection for one thing, you had to withdraw from another. Sad.
We can't root for one child over the other. You wouldn't like it if the kids played favorites with us.
Hey, Mom, look at me, Mom. Hi, Mom, over here. Mom!
More recently, the term cathexis has been used to refer to the intense amount of energy some people seem to put into making restrictive sexual and gender norms real, even though they aren't, and basically nothing is. Still, I hope this episode cathected you, which, according to Google, it can also just mean like perk up or energize, because as I said a second ago, nothing means anything. And words change their definitions more often than Selma changes fiancé.
You're touching me.
Kiss me, Patty. I don't have cooties.
I'm pretty sure that was Patty, but whatever.
That worked so well.